Hey, and welcome back to a new video. Last week we've made our own interaction component system, and to go further on that, I think it's good that we make our own interaction widget combined with a small HUD that you will see right now on your screen. So it's a small crosshair on your screen. Whenever you go close to an object, it changes from image and it displays an interaction key combined with a text. And also whenever you don't want to display text, you can leave it empty. It leaves it out and it moves only the interaction key to the middle for you to show. And all the possibilities, I'm going to show you what you can do with it furthermore as well. So let's get started. All right, just got a clean level right here. And to start off, we're going to be making the folders first that we're going to be using throughout the tutorial. So I'm going to make a small folder called UI. And this will be for the textures going to be importing later. And let's move over to blueprints. And in here, I'm going to make a new folder and I call it widgets. Let's open it. And then we're going to create two widgets. One will be the HUD, so that's something that will be constantly in your screen. And the second one will be the interaction widget. So whenever you look at an object, you will then see the display text, action key, and the new crosshair that we're going to be making as well. So let's set up the HUD first. So WB_HUD. Don't open it yet. We're going to be doing it soon. We're going to be creating the interaction widget as well. So WB_interaction widget. And let's open the HUD first. So the HUD is fairly simple. All you got to do for this one is search in the top left for a canvas panel, drag it in, and then we're going to search up image. I'm going to add that to the canvas panel. And we want this to be in the middle, so that's where normally the crosshair is. So you're going to select the image. Then you have anchors. Use this one, so that means you can center something. And then you have position X and position Y on the right. We'll click on these arrows to center it, but it's still not really center. It still has an offset here. As you can see, this is the center, but it's still not really centered correctly. So what you can do on alignment, I'm going to be adding 0.5 and 0.5. So now it's perfectly centered in the middle. And for the brush, this will be an image that I'm going to be adding soon. But for image size, I want to keep it small, so 15 by 15, right? And I'm going to quickly import my textures in the UI folder that we just made. And here we go. I'm going to open them both, change the texture group to UI, since we're going to be using them in the UI. Right? Save this real quick. And then for this one, I want ring 2, which will be the open one. It's not centered correctly. Now it is size to content. So now it's, as you can see, it's perfectly in the middle of our viewport. And now let's move over to the component. So it'll be in blueprints, components, VPC interaction. And on here, we're going to drag this out. And we're going to make a sequence here, since we're going to be doing multiple things now. First one, we'll still set this timer by function name. On here, we're going to make a reroute. And then we're going to use create widget. This will be our HUD, so WB_HUD. Own player will be the get player controller. It's always smart to add as a reference, since we're going to be removing the render opacity of the crosshair on the HUD whenever we look at an object, and enable the other one on the interaction system. So it's smart to have a reference so you can easily access the variables inside that widget. So I'm going to call this HUD ref. We're going to add this to the viewport. Add to viewport here. And we're going to make another pin. So reroute as well to make it better. We can copy this logic over. And then for this, we're going to be WB_interaction widget. And for this as well, we're going to be making a reference to it. So this is interaction widget ref. And for this one, we're not going to be adding it to the viewport because we only enable this whenever you look at an object. So now, if we play the game, you're going to be seeing that we have this nice crosshair on our screen. So this is just a HUD, so you can add more functionality on this as well, such an FPS count if you use a menu system, or it could be anything that you want to have constantly in your screen. So we're not going to be using the interaction widget for that because we only enable it whenever we need it. When it's not used, we're going to be removing it so it doesn't be in the screen all the time. So let's move on to the widget for the interaction. So this has a bit more than the HUD, but it's still, we're going to be starting off with a canvas panel. Also, before I forget, it is good to mention that we change this name on the HUD to crosshair, since we're going to be using this name later. So it's good to name it so you can easily remember it instead of just the default image name. So I did that real quick. Save. And for this one, we're also going to be using an image, and it's going to be the same steps as what we did with the HUD. So it should be centered, but for this one, I'm using the big dot, which will be size 15 by 15, size to content, anchor in the middle, and change the alignment to 0.5. So this is nice and standard. This will be interaction dot. All right, but we also want the text and the display for it. So for that, we're going to add a horizontal box. Add on canvas panel. And the alignment for this one, I'm going to be using it on the bottom here. I know some people like it to have it under the interaction dot. So the smartest thing is to just center it by the middle and then offset it a bit so it's not really aligned with, it's on the same place, so just a bit offset on the lower end here. I'm going to be using it on the bottom here. So now it's same this, it's not going to be aligned properly, but this will be 0.5. And I'm going to use one, say 3, so it's not at the bottom. Alright, and now we're going to add 2 more things. We're going to add a border. This will be the input key background. I'm going to duplicate it. This will be the text background. And this one will be scaled correctly, fill. Or I'll leave it out for now, that's fine, since the text will be scaling it. So we're going to add 2 text boxes. This will be action key text. Remove the text here. And then another text block on this as well. This will be the item name. I'm going to remove the text for now. Same on this one. And then for this one, I'm making a more gray, it's the wrong one. This one, brush, gray color. For this, we're gonna make it a bit more black. Make it transparent on 0.5. For this one, we're going to be centering it. Text block. Right. And same for this one. We're going to be centering it. Same for the text. This can be here. And then for the horizontal box, we're going to be size to content, so it fits nice here. And we're going to add a text right here. This will be E. So yeah, it's fairly simple. To make it look a bit more nicer, I'm going to add a small padding between these two so they don't collide with each other like that. So on the, I'm going to be adding a padding to the right, say like 10. This on the text. Should be this one, padding. And then gonna try 10 for now. And then also I'm gonna change draw as, instead of an image, to a rounded box. And for outline settings, we're gonna use fixed radius. And then we're gonna use 10 for each. So it's nice and round. And the same for this border. Draw as rounded box, half height radius, fixed radius, and 10 for each value. Since I don't want to make it too big, I'll probably leave it like this. Right. Save these we just made. And then let's set up the code for this. So the first thing that we should do is on the text block, we're gonna create a binding. This will be get item name. And for this, you could just drag this off. Make this variable called item name, or make it item name text. Right. And then since let's say you don't have a text for an object, this means this will just be an empty block with no text. So in that case, I want to move this one right here to the middle. So what we'll do, we'll change this visibility to collapse whenever it doesn't have text. So what you will do for that is on visibility, you can create a binding. So we'll say create binding. And then we'll call it get name visibility. We're gonna drag out item text for this. And then search for exactly equal. And then for this, make literal text. We're gonna leave this empty, which means whenever the item name text matches with an empty text, which means you didn't put anything in, we're gonna make sure it's gonna be collapsed, the visibility, so it's not in the scene whenever you activate the widget. So for this, we're gonna choose a select, and then wildcard will be Boolean, and attach this one right here. And then whenever this is true, which means the text is empty, we're gonna be making this to collapsed. And whenever it's not true, which means there is text found, we're gonna change this. We're not gonna change this since this is just default visibility. So that's good. All right. And since we wanna get the text from the actors we've made, so in this case, we're gonna use BP Interaction Master. We're gonna need to set up that you can add names in the details panel right here. So we're gonna open that one next and add a variable. We call it item name. And this is also type text. We're gonna make this instantiable. So that means you can just write whatever you want here. And we'll call it cube. But yeah, as you know, whenever we test it right now, there won't be any text display because there's no logic set up for it. So we need to get the text from this cube and add it to the widget. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back to blueprints, and right here we have interfaces. So open that one, and BPI interaction I'm going to be using. I'm going to add a new one, and we're going to call it get item data, since we want to get the data that's inside the actor or stored in the actor. We're gonna, for now, we're going to be using one output, and this will be item name and type text. So now if you go back to the interaction master, you should have this right here now, get item data. And just like I showed you here, the output is now displayed here. So what you can do, you can drag this out and then get the item name and then attach it here. So we can later use it in the interaction component to get the text from the actor that we want to display it from. So let's get going to the trace that we've made in the previous video. I'm gonna make some room here. This can stay. I'm gonna drag this out here. And since we now have all these references from the widgets, we're gonna start with the HUD right here. And so let's say you see we're looking at an actor. We wanna get the crosshair right here. And then search for set render opacity. And we're gonna change it to 0 whenever we look at an item. So whenever you're not looking anymore, we're going to reset interaction. We can pretty much copy this right here. And then instead of 0, we're going to be setting it to 1. So whenever now we look at an object, our cursor disappears. And when we look away, it's back again. So whenever we look at it now, the interaction widget should kick in pretty much. So let's make that right now. I think it's smart we first get the item name. So what we can do, drag out, we can say get item data. And the target is, oh, I'm on the wrong thing here. Should go to trace actor. Then we're gonna get item data. And we extend this from right here, since it's from the actor we're looking at. And then also drag an interaction widget ref. And then we can say set item name text. Like this. So whenever we look at it, we now retrieve the item name and then set it in the widget. So the binding picks that up automatically and displays the text. And then we want to add this widget to the viewport. So add to viewport, like so. So whenever we test this, it now swaps. It says cube because that's what we put in there. And when we look away, it's still displaying, which means we now have to make the disappearing logic. So setting the interaction widget ref gone, and then enabling the HUD crosshair again. That we should have already done if I remember correctly. So if we go back to our reset interaction, move this back a little bit. And then for the interaction widget, we do want to make a close. Normally you can just say remove from parent, but I want to make it a bit nicer so we have a nice open and closing animation. So go back to your interaction widget, and then to designer, and then select your horizontal box that we've made right here, and then go to animations, and then add a new one. I'm gonna call it fade in. Select it, and then we're gonna add the horizontal box to the track right here. So we start off with the render opacity. So we go from 0 and then go to 0.25 and then set it to 1. So whenever it's displaying, it fades in nicely like this. And whenever you're not looking at the actor anymore, we're going to reverse this so it goes from 1 to 0. Also think it's nice to have a nice transform animation. So we're going to go from scale, and this will be 0. And then whenever on 0.25, we're going to change it to 1. I see I used the wrong one here. So this will be just 1 like normal. This will be the X will be 0. So it goes from inside out like this. So it goes from small to big, and on the same time the render opacity is changing. So you have this nice animation whenever you look at it. So on the event graph, still in the widget, I'm going to go to on construct, like so. And we're going to drag out play animation. this, we're going to be using forward, and then get fade in. That's the animation, and for the target, that's just self, because it's going to be playing inside the widget itself. And also, whenever we want to close the widget, we're going to make a custom event for that. I'm going to call it close widget. And we can pretty much copy this logic like so. Attach it. And then we're going to say reverse. But whenever we call this in our interaction, like so we're going to call close, you'll notice that it starts this, it doesn't play. It just removes itself fully. And it looks a bit buggy. So we're going to fix that right now. So this will be playing in reverse and then on a delay. And then we're going to match the time of the animation, which is 0.25. And then we say remove from parent. Remove from parent. Like so. Alright. Now we can test it out, see what it looks like. So we now look at the cube. Displays our nice name. And when we look away, it's disappearing. I do notice a small issue. Is whenever I look away, the text nicely fades out, but my crosshair takes a while to remove, so it doesn't have any animation, so it stays like a millisecond longer. So I do want to change that, so we go back to the animation, and now we're going to select the interaction dot right here, and on this we're going to add it in the same sequence, and now we're going to go from render opacity 0 to 1. So this is also nice included in the animation whenever we look or look away from an object. Right, let's test it out. Now it blends nicely with the interaction like this. So this is looking good. But whenever I have this empty, you now see that the E key is nicely centered, because we've set it to centered, so whenever the name is collapsed, it doesn't account it in the box, in the horizontal box, so it just centers itself in the horizontal box, which is nicely in the middle, in a direct line under the crosshair. So yeah, there you go. You can place the interaction name wherever you like. I know most people want to have it directly under the interaction crosshair, but yeah, I like it under there. And let's say we add one more like this, and this will be called green cube, and we test it out. So you have this nicely here, and whenever you look at this one, the text is quite big, to probably lower it a bit. It says green cube. Whenever you look at this one again, it's just the E key, and now it's just the E key with the name combined. So yeah, as simple as it can be. Well, I'm gonna make this project, I'm gonna clean it up a bit, and as for the previous one, I'm gonna be uploading this to my GitHub, so link in the description for that. So the project is becoming bigger and bigger on GitHub as well, so you can follow the progress, and I'm trying to upload it after every video, so whenever this is online, you can directly see the project and get it for yourself. Also, if you have a suggestion for what we're going to do next week for this system, let me know. And if there are more people wanting to see it, I'm going to cover it in the next one. And the plan is to build this into a fully functional framework that we're going to be making with each other. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and see you on the next one.